Another day in paradise, people. Another sacking.
Exactly.
Look,
Another day, another sacking.
No
let's be
days
honest,
off, my
yeah,
bros.
this should have happened when Antonio Conte left. Let's be real, right? There was no reason to keep these guys on whilst Conte has left. It makes no sense. And I know I said otherwise when he actually got sacked. So before you bring up your receipts, Sean, I know, right? I changed my opinion pretty quickly, and like there was no reason if the players, the fans, everyone was so sick and tired of Conte's methods and the tactics and everything like that. Why do you keep a BTEC Conte on? It makes no sense to me whatsoever.
Right, so before we start, I guess we should read the statement, which has been it's been titled "A Club Update from Daniel." Interestingly enough, he says Sunday's performance against Newcastle was wholly unacceptable. It was devastating to see. We can look at many reasons why it happened, and whilst myself, the board and the coaches and players must all take collective responsibility, ultimately the responsibility is mine. Christian will leave his current role along with his coaching staff. Christian stepped up at a difficult point in our season, and I want to thank him for the professional manner in which he and his coaching staff have conducted themselves during such a challenging time. We wish him and the staff well. Ryan will take over head coach duties with immediate effect. Ryan knows the club and the players well. We shall update further on his coaching staff in due course. I met with the player committee today. The squad is determined to pull together to ensure the strongest possible finish to the season. We are all clear. We need to deliver performances which earn your amazing support. Come on, you Spurs. Daniel. So he said ultimately the responsibility is mine. Is that the first time he's ever said that?
That was ChatGPT. That wasn't Daniel Levy. What are you talking about? He's a
liar. Ben, what was your reaction to the statement then? And obviously, look, we heard about it earlier today that this might be the case. But so what do you think now has happened?
Look, we were speaking about it earlier, weren't we, on the update, and we both thought that it's probably the right decision for him to go, but it's kind of a pointless decision. Top four is pretty much gone. There's nothing left to play for in this season, so I kind of feeling like, who really cares, to be honest, if he's here for the rest of the season or not? The season's completely gone. I guess it'll bring something new, that Ryan Mason will be taking charge for the rest of the season, bring on Ryan Mason 2.0. But at the end of the day, like, does it really matter who's our manager from now until the end of the season? Because things have got so bad. Is Ryan Mason really going to be the one to pick things up and catapult us into the top four? I mean, I very much doubt it. But I guess it gets the bad feeling of all Conte's staff and everyone like that out the door. So I guess it's good in that sense.
Yeah, it does definitely give off the impression like too little too late, though, doesn't it, in this season? We could have made this change 4 games ago. I don't know how much of a difference it would have made, but this decision should have been made after the Southampton game. Ash, looking on Monday, on what happened yesterday, if that was Stellini's attempt at maybe playing some more attacking football, do you reckon with Mason in charge, maybe there could be a system in place which allows us to play attacking football a bit better than we did yesterday? Or should we expect, if Mason is going to come in and maybe change to a back four, should we expect more performances like yesterday?
No, Mason needs to stink it out. No, if he goes to a back four, oh my Lord. Tell me how to win without telling me how to win. That's basically what he's going to do. If we go to a back four against United, I'm sorry. After what I just saw at Newcastle, we're going to get slaughtered. We're going to get slaughtered. And no amount of tricks. Like, he needs a miracle. He needs it was that guy from Harry Potter. The little weird one. I can't remember his name. He's got like little elfy ears. Looks like Stellini, actually. He needs him on his side. He needs some type of like voodoo to help him win a match, because I feel like Spurs, we're just so like unlucky in everything. Like, everything we do, we just can't get it right. And I feel like we've got a hex on our whole club. And that's how I feel about it, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to disagree right now, because everywhere you turn, there's just bad decisions being made, bad football. And like we don't have a new manager in the pipeline, so there doesn't seem to be right now any hope for Tottenham fans as things stand, especially with 6 games to go still in the season, and we have to really have a good end season to even snatch a Europa League spot. Sean, what are you thinking?
Disrespect on Mason's head. The disrespect.
Well, what disrespect? No disrespect. I love Mason as a person, but I don't know about a manager. Well, Sean, do you think this could be a good move for us?
Not really. I, with all due respect to Ryan Mason, I don't think he has any. I don't think he's got the minerals to help navigate it. Like, it depends what our expectations are now for the rest of the season. If I'm entirely honest, like, I walked into the Newcastle game expecting nothing but a loss, but certainly expecting something better than we saw. But ultimately, you know, I think that it was always going to be a treading water session and see if we could figure out a way to, in all likelihood, sort of scrape Europa League or scrape 6th. But now I think the writing's on the wall. The club absolute shambles. And I wanted to go back to your point, Sim, that the first thing you said was Daniel Levy could have, or the club could have avoided this. And you know, the decision around when you first let go of Conte could have, you know, they didn't need to go down this path of putting Stellini. And there's a lot to that. There's a lot to kind of unpack there. What I would say is, and listen, I'm over like defending Daniel Levy when just for the sake of it sometimes. But what I would say is, there's certain timings that you could have, he could have and should have foreseen coming. Whether or not he could have and should have known about Fabio Paratici before he hired him, put that to one side. I'm not convinced that he did necessarily, but I know that the Athletic think he should have done. But put that to one side. As of December of this year, Fabio Paratici's head was on the chopping block. And regardless of what happened going forward, Daniel Levy has had 5-6 months to get plan B in place with regards to the director of football. When that news came with regards to the appeal being rejected last week, at that point, before you can go and make any new moves with any new managers, you have to have a new director of football in place, because that is the guy's job. That is the responsibility of him and Scott Munn to figure that out. Not for him to do. Absolutely not. It's for other people to be involved in that conversation. And the fact that the appeal was rejected, and we are now a week and a half later, and as far as we're aware, there are no significant or even conversations happening with regards the very first stepping stone in a long line of chicken and the egg situations. It's unforgivable. Daniel Levy gets a lot of criticism for things that I personally come at from a different angle and don't think he should get all of the mud thrown at him that he does for all of the ways that he does. Some of them, yes, some of them, no. But on this one, sleeping on Fabio Paratici and that scenario, it's unforgivable. Before you can move into a new manager, you need to have a director of football, and we don't have any indication of who that's going to be and what that's going to be like. With regards Conte and Conte getting rid of his duties because of what he said, all of that stuff was expedited very suddenly because of the reaction to the Southampton result. I'm not convinced that he necessarily should have had a replacement in line immediately. And so I think that there are kind of some concessions that you can make for trying to figure out the way through that quagmire of chaos in the short term. But before you can make a new manager decision, you need to have a director of football. And the fact that we don't have any kind of inroads into what that looks like right now, to me, is the biggest L in all of Daniel Levy's many long line of L's over the last, 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, some people are saying that putting Stellini in charge is among one of his worst ever decisions in during his Tottenham tenure. Do we agree with that? Do you think it's one of his worst ever decisions?
I don't know. I look at David Pleat. But David Pleat, when we brought him in after George Graham, we brought Pleat in.
After Glenn Hoddle.
Glenn Hoddle. We brought David Pleat
3 times, isn't it?
Yeah, it's been quite a few times, and and we had the worst finish under Pleat. Or was it the joint worst finish? I think it was the joint worst finish we had under Pleat, and he kept him there for a whole year. So I don't know the decision making, and I think that was like 2000 and maybe 10 years ago. It might have been 10 years ago that happened. No, maybe more, 20 years. 20 years ago. So it's like, it's nothing new. Do you know what I'm saying? It's nothing new, guys. This keeps happening. Same mistakes, but just coming up in different versions, in my opinion. So it's definitely up there, though. It's definitely up there. Stellini won. He just got that completely wrong. Whether he listened to his buddy Paratici and said, no, you've got to keep the back staff. No, you've got to listen. No, don't let them go. Come on. We need top four. You want top four? Listen. And then he decided that he wanted, I know it's Max, and don't worry about Max. Yeah, but basically decided to keep them on. And then now look, like we're in the position that we're in now. Like moving on, I don't think he got that one right. I think he got that completely wrong. But again, I think he's gonna.
I don't know what else he could have done though, Ash. Like what else in the because I don't think that Conte's reaction to the Southampton game that probably wouldn't have happened had it not been for that penalty that shouldn't have been given, or if it hadn't been for Longlay's missed header in the last 10 seconds or whatever. Had that result not gone the way it did, the reaction wouldn't have been the way it was. Like I can somewhat understand that particular decision was by forced hand and catching him slightly unawares. And then when you're at that period in the season when you only have 10 games to go or 11 games to go, it's not easy to have like a plan B right up your sleeve, you know. And a lot of chairmen, do pivot to their assistants, to the assistant manager in the interim.
I don't know. Like, it's basically, I think most of the fans are upset because you're having the same back. Like, you got rid of the main man, but you kept the back staff.
Oh, yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, that's
yeah, I'm trying to say. So I think that was the L that Daniel has to take right now. I mean, if you're gonna change something, you need to change something. And I don't think he changed anything. He kind of just let it rot, and he just kind of left it and said, "Oh boy, it's up to you guys now." And then now it's just gotten worse. And then all of a sudden, 6-1 later, he's panicked and he's realized his top four is under threat again. And he's like, well, you're fired. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't feel like footballing logical decisions, in my opinion. Like, I could be wrong.
Are we the first ever? Is he the first ever chairman to sack an interim manager and appoint a second interim?
I think so. I think this is the first time in the Premier League.
I don't think it's ever happened. I can't remember an occasion that's ever happened before.
But what are we seeing right now? We said it before, like on our match review, you know, a culmination of what we're seeing at Spurs is a culmination of 5 years of complete bad decisions over and over and over again. And this is just another one of those bad decisions on that long list. I mean, keeping Stellini on when you sack Conte, it's just like, it stinks of a guy that doesn't know what he's doing and a guy that doesn't know anything about football. That's what it stinks of.
Also, before this all kicked off, on Thursday night, you can't make this up. Thursday night, he decides to go down to Cambridge.
Yeah.
No, that Cambridge thing was actually last month.
That was
Wednesday night
ago. Yeah, that was a few weeks ago. Yeah.
Was it a few weeks ago? But I mean, it got released. It got
only got released
now.
yesterday.
Yeah, it got released.
Yeah, it didn't seem that long ago from some of the questions they were asking. To be fair.
Yeah,
it was a month ago.
March the 23rd, I think it was. It was
so pre Conte sacking, is that?
I think Conte got sacked around that time, didn't he?
And then he thought it was a good idea.
No, Conte was sacked before
27th of March. Conte got sacked.
Oh,
okay, so it was pre.
Okay, there you go. Yeah. Fair enough.
What was it? Before or after? What was it?
Before.
Just before. Yeah, just before.
2 days.
Yeah.
Wow. You can't make this up. You can't make this up. The way things are just falling, it's crazy. And they thought they must have released it. They must have given it the okay to release it around this week because everyone was viewing it and commenting it on around this week. And then 6-1.
What do you reckon Conte's thinking right now? He left with that bombshell of that press conference. Every game has gone from bad to worse since he's gone, and now, after Stellini's taken the role, he's been sacked. He must be laughing in his house in Italy right now. He must be cracking up.
Yeah. I mean, I would be. I'll be having that rosé, that chilled Italian wine, sipping on it like I told you. Y'all didn't want to listen, but look where you are now. Mud bath, yeah? You lot are in the mud, so...
Well, the one thing I'll always hold him accountable for was when he was asked after the Aston Villa game, do you need new centre-backs? And he said, no. I think that was a bad answer, right?
So
I don't really and people say that he was never going to throw his players under the bus. He did. He had before and he did after. So like if he had been given the centre backs that he should have asked for in January, then maybe the tail of the tape would look a little bit differently. Our centre backs and our goalkeeper and our injuries are the 2 or 3 biggest reasons for our struggles this season, I think.
But Sean, I do kind of think with that comment, like there are maybe some things you say to the press that you say something different behind closed doors. Like Conte was maybe very much like that, maybe.
Not until maybe so, but until after the Southampton game, because those things
but that was right at the very end.
Then, but it didn't have to be the very end. He decided that was the very end, right? He was still employed by Tottenham at that particular point in time,
Yeah. No, I get that, but I don't believe for 1 second that Conte didn't think that he wanted centre-backs, that he didn't think he needed centre-backs. I don't believe that for 1 second.
But yeah.
If he did believe it, then crazy, right? Because it was obvious that we did. It just surprised me that he allowed the window to transpire. Unless there's things that we obviously don't know, conversations that were had that he didn't want to share then, that he was, whatever. We don't know the ins and outs of what happens behind the scenes. But to me, and I think it's obvious to everybody that to say you don't need a centre back when you need at least 2, it's a mistake, right? We needed centre backs in January. We needed that much is clear at least.
What we're thinking about the.
Yeah, go on.
No, I was just going to say, what we're thinking about the comment from Levy that says, "I take." What was the actual words? I take blame.
He says, ultimately the responsibility is mine. He says he says we can look at many reasons why the Newcastle performance happened. Essentially, he said, and whilst myself, the board, the coaches, and the players must all take collective responsibility, ultimately the responsibility is mine. That's what he's saying now, which I don't think I've ever heard from someone like Daniel Levy. A lot of the time, he's been passing the buck with it when it comes to responsibility. So it seems like it's the first time he. Well, no, I don't know if it's the first time. I can't remember all his statements, but I don't remember any time he's ever said the responsibility is mine, like that. So I don't know if it's a change of perspective or anything like that, but can we read too much into it? Is that as a change of perspective for Levy, do we think, or is it just lip service?
Lip service, 100%. It's always lip service with that man. We know that. The guy ain't fit for purpose anymore.
The other day, he was saying, or those guys were saying that they thought they did a good job, or they thought they were doing a good job, or they were not saying that. So
they were saying that, but that was before this whole shit.
That was before Conte. Yeah. That was before Conte, Paratici, and now Stellini.
Yeah.
What a difference a month makes.
Has Dan Juma had more managers than appearances?
Wow.
Look, honestly, it's ridiculous. But look, I think you're probably right. Is definitely lip service, isn't it? When he's just trying to look, he's probably listening. He's probably hearing what the fans are saying at the moment. He's coming under increasing pressure, and he's got to say something, isn't it? When would they ever brand sacking a club update from Daniel? They never do that. It's always a statement from the club or something like that. So I do find it interesting that he himself has decided this statement has to be him, and this is a club statement from Levy and an update from Levy, and I'm taking full responsibility.
Not from Levy, from Daniel. It's
from Daniel. He's a human. He's humanizing himself. The bastard ain't a human.
It's because everyone else is gone. He's the only one left.
He has started to kind of to take gradual responsibility. You've seen it in the financial statements, right? He started to acknowledge that it's not about the amount of spending; it's how we're spending it. That was the first ever acknowledgement of them doing anything other than a perfect job in their mind in any of the previous accounts, and now you're seeing this. I think that there is a genuine shift, but he'd be mad to keep up the same pretense that everything's rosy when everyone knows it's not. So I think it's natural and obvious, but I agree with Ben, it's lip service for sure.
I think my man's pissing himself because he knows Thursday night it's going to kick off.
Mm-hmm.
Thursday night, Bournemouth, they were saying Levy out. But hey, Thursday is people's chance to really say what they really think, and he's going to be there. So whether that happens in the stadium or outside the stadium, something I want, trust me, he's going to feel it. He's going to feel the heat. That's what I reckon.
I think you could hear full-blooded Levy out chants, I think, on Thursday. I think beforehand it was kind of muted. Some people agreed with them, some people didn't. But I think whilst we had a chance of doing something, for example, if we would have beaten Bournemouth, we go level on points in Newcastle, AC Milan at home, you know, there were I remember there were murmurings, but like people kind of wanted to get behind the team because like if they knew if we would have won, we could actually put ourselves in a good position. But now everything's gone and there's nothing left to play for. I think there's nothing holding this Levy out movement back now, in a way.
And also, they can't sing Pochettino's Magic, you know. They can't sing that anymore because he's in bed with Chelsea. He's in bed with Bowley. So,
do you know what, Ash? On that basis, mate, like the fact that if all reports are true, that he was Poch was open-minded to a conversation with Tottenham, and no conversation happened, no phone call happened. Like Daniel Levy better have a plan up, and I don't suspect for a second that he does, but you better hope that he pulls a rabbit out of the bag to find, if we end up with a disappointing brand manager, a disappointing name that not many people will get behind, I think it's you know, it's game over for his reputation if it's not kind of already. He better have a Nagelsmann lined up. He better have someone that is a more receptive name to the fans than Pochettino, even though a lot of fans may just kind of like desperate for something that they can get behind, almost like it's I'm not sure I forget what the word is, but like where you're harking on to kind of previous good times that may not necessarily be a good fit for now. But if you can't get better than Poch, then to have ignored Poch and for Poch to end up at Chelsea, that's going to go down like a pint of warm sick with most of the Tottenham fans, I feel.
One other interesting point of the statement some people are bringing up is the phrase player committee. He said, I met with the player committee today and we discussed, and you know, where everyone's going to move forward. Is that just him saying he met with the players, or do we have a committee? Are there players on a committee?
No, there's a leadership group at Tottenham in the playing staff, and I imagine that's I think Matt Doherty was actually part of it, but now it's got to be Højbjerg, Kane, Lloris, and maybe Sonny in there as well. I don't know.
Do you reckon like the players were just doing a protest, like Levy out, get him out? That'd be funny, isn't it?
Kane's going to join us on the high road on Thursday night.
He refuses to play. Said, nope, I'm not coming out. But yeah, I think with all jokes aside, with all this happening as well, I wonder like what's going through Kane's head as well. After hitting 6-1, that's like rock bottom away, and you know we're not getting top 4. You must pretty think. Yeah, go on.
The Supporters Trust has made a statement about the sacking of Stellini. They said, we have pushed for a response from Spurs official. It's right that the chairman has accepted responsibility and taken action after the awful events of yesterday. Fans still deserve a refund and will continue to press for that. All supporters will now want to get behind Ryan in his attempts to rescue our season. That is what the Supporters Trust, they're saying they're pushing for a refund for all the fans who travelled up to Newcastle yesterday.